Live stuff is fun. You guys ready? You guys feeling the energy of live?
So much energy.
Countdown.
Amped. What's going to happen?
Is he going to give me one of like the Wayne's World thing? Can't wait. I haven't seen it yet. No, you're still mouthing. Whatever happens, don't let me sit here waiting.
I think that's
while
what's
it's
happening.
live. Is that what's happening right now? Are we
I
live?
think we're live.
Yeah, we are?
Hey.
Welcome, everybody, to our very first live CineFix Roundtable. As you can see, still getting a little used to it. But welcome all the same. I am Clint. With me again is Josh Dickey, Entertainment Editor here at Mashable. First timer, Jeff Sneider, Senior Movie Reporter, also from Mashable, and Kayvan, Ghavim, Executive Producer here. We're all sitting here, again, no roundtable. I know I'm the new guy here, but when I ask for a roundtable, it doesn't matter yet?
Would a leaf-shaped table be okay, like from IKEA?
Do we have one of those?
Well, I mean, I can bring one from home.
Okay. We might do that for the next one. But today, what we're going to talk about, it being right smack in the middle of summer, Suicide Squad coming out this weekend. Obviously, superhero movies are a big thing, but let's talk for a minute about superheroes that aren't exclusively superheroes, right? Like, we're talking about regular folks that sort of act like superheroes.
I have a character on my list.
Let's just dive right into it. This is going to be much easier to explain if we're just doing it.
So we're talking about superheroes that aren't technically superheroes.
Right.
Okay. I've always felt that Donnie Darko is a superhero. Okay. Donnie Darko, at the end of the movie, he realizes in order to save his family, he has to essentially go back in time, and so that is sort of a superpower. I mean, he doesn't have traditional gifts,
right?
But clearly, there's something going on because he can see Frank the Bunny and nobody else can.
Right. Is being emo a superpower?
Yeah, super emo superhero.
Well, considering who your favorite superhero is,
the Crow.
I would say yes. Super emo is a superpower.
Yeah.
Not since Spider-Man 3 has there been a more emo superhero.
Right.
Yes, you
There's
can make everyone
either.
around you cringe to the point of being completely incapacitated. Yes, that's what super emo.
That is a deeper cut than I was initially planning on. I was going to
got
go with
others, but-
I was going to go with something like Indiana Jones. Does Indiana Jones count as a superhero?
No.
He doesn't?
Yeah.
I
Okay.
don't think so. I think he's just super brave, and the things he does are pretty humanistic. But I mean, I'm taking a counterposition here.
Sure.
Indiana Jones obviously has some incredible skills with a whip, with the gun, with the ladies.
But but in the sense that he seems to be more or less indestructible.
I would say he's pretty indestructible. And I mean, outside of that, just the stamina that would be required to do the things he does
This is true.
is basically superhuman.
A couple other things I'll throw at you. He's got an alter ego in the mild-mannered archaeology professor.
Very good. Yes,
He has
very good point.
essentially has a uniform, right? That you're like, now you're being the super guy as
Right.
opposed to your
Sort of a
alter ego guy.
transformative kind of
Bow
uniform.
tie normally, weekends with a bullwhip.
That's right. And he seems to have some super ethereal knowledge of mysticism that most people don't possess.
Yeah.
Partly through his studies, but also I think instinctually he just says, "Don't look at the don't look at the light," or
Right.
whatever like that.
Right.
And he's dealing with the virtually anything in front of you and I that would make us turn and run away. I mean, he's able to face these incredible supernatural powers.
Like he's tapped into something that
Exactly.
everybody else isn't. Yeah.
And the women love it.
Sure.
They sure do.
They write things on their eyelids because
every time. Plus, he survived that a nuclear blast. But that actually brings me to another point that I wanted to talk about. Is because one of the other characters that I wanted to bring up was John McClane, and John McClane didn't really become a superhero until later in the franchise, and I think to the detriment of his character.
Yeah, it got increasingly ridiculous, the
Right.
things that they're asking John McClane to do.
To be honest, I didn't even make it all the way through the fifth one. I was on a plane and I didn't make it through.
Doesn't seem to be a
You're
problem for
trapped.
the Fast and Furious franchise, which
Yes.
is a pretty good allegory for what you guys are talking about here.
yeah,
It starts out they're just racing cars, and now they're jumping through windows in Dubai,
Yeah.
and out of airplanes with.
Their superpower is cars.
It is, but also it's a way that the movie itself sort of treats those characters, because there's no like consistency of like consequences in those movies. Like they can just drive literally off a cliff, tumble millions and millions of times, land at the bottom. He gets out of the car, does that, and we're on to the next scene. They can do anything at any point, I guess is the point that I'm making. So it's like it's hard to not like that's a super heroic sort of way in which the movie itself is treating these characters. If he has to like drive up a ramp and flip his car and hook a bag of explosives onto this helicopter, done. He can do that. But I think that the problem with John McClane is sort of the good thing about the Fast and Furious movies. I think the Fast and Furious movies have gotten better and more enjoyable the more ridiculous and outlandish they've become. Whereas the opposite is true for John McClane.
The thing is with John McClane, the whole point is reality. Like that was
Right.
the moment. Like that's the part of it that's it's a real cop in a real situation.
Yeah.
Just taking it to the next level. Fast and Furious is just it started shedding reality, and now it's just shedding different elements of physics in every every episode, and to make it something completely different.
Right. So what else we got? What other guys we got?
I don't know if you guys are going to agree with this one. This is a bit of a deep cut as well.
I hope we don't all agree with this
But
one.
I have this theory that the journalists of Spotlight have a perfect connection to each of the original cinematic Avengers. Now, hear me
Okay.
out here. Now, this is a team of people with extraordinary journalistic abilities who have a clear villain in the Catholic Church.
Mm-hmm.
They are saving kids. Their uniforms are terrible normcore 90s clothes, right? But here's where I'm going to drop some jaws. Robbie Robertson, who is the sort of player coach,
Yeah.
played by Michael Keaton, who played Batman and
Yeah.
Birdman, is Captain America.
Ooh.
He's sort of the pure-hearted, jumps into the fray but really leads the team and galvanizes them. You've got Sasha Pfeiffer, who is Black Widow, obviously, the female
Because she's a
version.
girl?
Right, but her, I mean, that's
I don't-
that's
no, I'm
why,
sorry.
but also,
I'm not trying to-
I'm starting weak and going strong.
Gotcha.
She is obviously Black Widow because she goes door to door and she can get people to talk to her and tell her things that they don't necessarily want, getting out there, right?
Plus she's going to be in Doctor Strange.
Right.
So
That's right.
Yeah.
Marty Baron, played by Liv Schreiber,
Mm-hmm.
is an outsider, not from their planet. He's not from Boston, which means if you're not from Boston and you're in Boston, you might as well be from another planet. So he comes in and he kind of is this like catalyzing element when he appears. Things really kind of start to get going. Obviously, Mike Resendez, played by
well, wait, who's going to be?
Thor?
Mark Ruffalo.
No, Liev Schreiber.
I'm
Liev
sorry,
Schreiber.
Liev Schreiber is Thor.
This is Thor, right, from a different planet.
Right. Mike Resendez, played by Mark
Ruffalo, sure.
is
Clearly the Hulk.
the Hulk because he's the only one who gets fired
driven
up.
by anger.
That's
Yeah.
right. He's running around like a crazy person. Ben Bradley, who is played by John Slattery, who plays Howard Stark,
Yep.
is Tony Stark.
Yeah. Well, and Liev Schreiber was Sabretooth also.
That's right, and those two are sort of like
that barely
it
counts,
keeps
but-
going. And then Matt Carroll's just the kind of the guy who's just sort of thrown in there, has a funny line
Sure.
here and there.
Hawkeye, yeah.
Poor
There you
Brian
go.
Darcy James.
Yes,
Poor-
the spotlight
And poor Jeremy
journalists
Renner, too.
Are the Avengers? Yes.
Let me ask you guys about Kevin McAllister from Home Alone. I mean, he defeats two grown men in two movies. He's great
Yep.
at planning and coming up with traps. Is that a superhero-esque quality?
Here's another thing,
violent.
and I think speaking more towards like a tonal thing with the movie itself, and I think this has something to do with Indiana Jones as a superhero too, because there's a pulpy element to Indiana Jones, and then there's a cartoonish element to Home Alone. So it's like just the overall feel of the movie. Does that contribute to whether or not a character can be considered superheroic?
Well said.
Oh, was I said? That was a question.
I'll tell you what has sort of a fan. I almost think about Ferris Bueller in that way.
Yeah.
Yes,
Well,
kind
there's
of
the fan theory that Ferris Bueller is actually a figment of Cameron's imagination.
Oh, I have not heard that one.
You haven't?
don't
Look it
know
up.
that.
It's good.
Oh,
that's a
that's
different
amazing.
roundtable altogether.
But he's
Crazy
kind
fan
of,
theory.
but he's kind of got that Bugs Bunny quality where he just bounces in and out of situations and can't seem to.
Well,
do
charisma
wrong.
is his superpower.
That's-
He just
Yeah.
has the ability to.
You can charm anyone at
Exactly.
any moment.
Yeah.
and also just flat out lie.
So have we broken this topic down categorically in any way? We've got sort of tonally the movie can treat a character in a certain way.
That's funny. The idea, this is a little off topic, but the idea of omniscience is something that's crept into almost every superhero movie. Surveillance and omniscience, the way that those two things kind of, data comes together, have come in almost every superhero movie we've seen. If you want to throw in Jason Bourne, for that matter,
right.
who is, I think, is a superhero, but that's not even really a question because he just has extraordinary abilities that were sort of given to him, as opposed to Indiana Jones, who's just sort of trained and is brave. All these movies are beginning, I guess, with The Dark Knight, which had that sort of
weird bat.
So, where you look through everybody's phones all the time.
It was just too far for Lucius Fox to go.
Are hackers the new superheroes?
I don't know.
Would the Julian Assange of the Fifth Element be considered the modern superhero?
But the superheroes are always fighting against these organizations that are collecting all your information generally, right?
I think if hackers were to be considered the new superheroes, I think the powers that be would be considered the new supervillains, I guess.
The man. Where do we fall on James Bond? Is James Bond like an Indiana Jones type? Is he closer to the Ethan Hunt, Jason Bourne mold?
I would, and when you brought up Jason Bourne, I don't know that Jason Bourne is a superhero because there's some sort of logical grounding in his abilities, because he was trained.
Logical.
Well, there's at least a reason for it that is sort of it's something that you can buy a little bit,
There's the reason I always liked Iron Man as one of my favorite superheroes is he's completely self-made.
Right.
It's all through technology. If you took the rest of the Marvel universe away and just had him, you could almost see that as something like the Rocketeer, for instance.
Love the Rocketeer.
It's just based on a piece of technology. We've seen it happen a million times where somebody has some advanced technology. It's just that he's selfish and doesn't want to share it with the world. Yeah. Doesn't try to profit from it. He just makes himself very powerful as a result.
Right. It's that one piece of technology plus bravery and that person's actual character that sort of makes them.
Which actually makes Tony Stark, I think, more like a super. So it seems like there is a line that we're drawing here between superheroes and super spies, right? To some degree, superheroes can get shot with gamma. You make up any reason you want to why they have their abilities, whereas super spies, and I guess you'd have to maybe include the Fast and the Furious group in here,
So is Batman not a superhero then?
Kind of, in a way, he's not. He's more like Bourne, or not like Bourne.
But there's not a lot of difference between Bourne and Batman, really, to me. Except
a bunch of cash and secret identity.
But I mean, on how they're going to deal with this group of thugs. The difference between Batman and Jason Bourne is minimal, other than a batarang or something like that.
That's true. And a cool suit.
Yeah, and it does the fact that Batman just exists in a world with Superman. Does that make Batman a superhero automatically because he's there with the Justice League?
So context is what drives the definition?
Because he is just a guy who's really good at fighting and building fun gadgets.
But to go back onto the technology side, I was actually thinking about this. Is Marty McFly technically a superhero because he has access to this technology he uses to get what he needs, including a time machine, but also the Walkman and the skateboard and things like that, where he has knowledge which makes him basically a superhero in this world?
I don't know. I have a hard time. I feel like we've established that the definition of a superhero, you can be pretty fast and loose with it, and you can make a case for I have a hard time with Marty McFly, though.
Marty McFly's, I like that we're talking about this. It's an interesting idea, but he does seem to be just sort of reacting in his environment.
Yeah.
He's just trying to hold his life together.
Yeah.
As opposed to trying to save the world.
He's trying to save his world that he inadvertently screwed up by trying to save his dad.
Right.
Here's a question I have. One word that we haven't talked about yet. Sacrifice. Do you have to make some kind of a sacrifice in order to be a superhero?
So what would Marty McFly's sacrifice be?
I don't know because I'm not a big Back to the Future guy.
You don't think it's the perfect movie, Jeff?
It's widely considered to be the perfect movie. But there is an interesting sort of Harry Potter kind of element to your argument for Marty McFly. The thing I've always liked about Harry Potter is he's not the best wizard or the smartest wizard, but he's loyal and brave and willing to sacrifice, like you said. So it's I don't know, maybe Harry Potter is a superhero, but I think Marty McFly would fit more into that mold in that he's a guy that isn't the smartest, most talented, or most with it character, but he's the guy that's gonna fix everything ultimately. Okay, well, anything else to add?
Buckaroo Banzai.
Buckaroo Banzai?
I was ready to just rip open my shirt and reveal that I am, in fact, a superhero.
Actually a superhero. Did we learn anything? What did we learn?
Unfortunately, the storytelling methods of modern Hollywood have not evolved much from ancient Greece.
No.
I mean, they just really haven't. We are for some reason obsessed with the one person who can save us and the difficulties they go through to get there, and here we are. I think that's been the one underlying thing here, is that superheroes are simply archetypal. They're just maybe a little bit amplified. Right. And
whether or not they explicitly have superpowers or not is more or less irrelevant, but
yeah, that's just devices.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and some of those devices are super cool. Like, I think, the Marvel universe in particular, DC to the same extent, they came up with, in the 50s and 60s, some really neat ideas for what heroism could be, not just through the human expression, but, superhuman expression. Here's what if.
Yeah.
The sort of, but really, what they came up with is just not that different than Zeus and Medusa.
Right.
So I guess the question is, do these people exist? Do metahumans live among us?
Among us, right.
If we have been so obsessed with this for 5,000 years or more, is there something going on that we don't know about?
There are.
I'm going to say no, yeah.
There's a short answer, no. All right, everybody, that's what we think. Let us know what superheroes aren't technically superheroes, but they're still superheroes. Let us know what you think down in the comments below. Which ones did we forget to mention? Because I'm sure there's many of them. Let us know what you think down there in the comments, and stick around CineFix. Make sure to get over to CineFix and subscribe for all of our great movie content, and we will see you next time. Yeah, we all had a... We're going to claim these as signature goodbyes? Because everybody's was a little subtly different.
I don't know if I want to stick with the salute. Can I get another take?
Okay.